Yeah, no, exactly. So we're actually going to kind of pivot, Nikki, in terms of a lot of the work that you do. So again, we're going to bring Aaron into the conversation and Anna Celenza as well, and just to kind of frame and get some context in terms of what you're working with Austin, Texas musicians. We're going to show just a kind of a short video of testimony you gave yesterday in front of, I think, the Austin City Council. Is that correct? Could you set that up for us?
Yeah, so yesterday, Austin City Council was voting on what's called Item 62, or SAVES, Saving Austin's Vital Economic Sectors, that Mayor Adler and some other council members brought specifically to address music venues, arts venues, restaurants and bars, and childcare. Somehow we got lumped in there, but the issue is that all summer through the pandemic, we've been getting these resolutions, and they never specifically create a dedicated music venue fund. And then when it goes out to staff, they farm it out to whoever's doing it. The money actually never really makes it to the venues who need it the most, or at all. And so this was my moment to tell the city council to remind them that they need to step up and do a better job.
Awesome. Alex, please roll the clip. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Nakia. I am a working musician, the founding president of Austin, Texas Musicians, and a resident of Windsor Park in District 1. I'm here today to strongly urge council to include explicit language in Item 62 that creates a dedicated live music venue preservation fund. Our city's marketing department has no problem repeating Austin is the live music capital of the world. So why is it so hard for our city council to put in writing and send to staff a resolution that creates a dedicated fund for the very businesses that made that slogan possible and employ thousands of musicians, hospitality, event, and production staff? Threadgills, Barracuda, Shady Grove. I could spend my entire 2 minutes listing the venues that have already closed or musicians who are forced out of the city since the pandemic began. You have the data. You know what's coming. Yet time and time again, when Austin music is given some promise of hope with an ordinance or resolution, council waters it down and won't take decisive action to help save our stages. Instead, venues and musicians are lumped in with other small businesses and forced to jump through hoops for what? To take a chance on a lottery? It's wrong and it's shameful. Austin isn't the small business capital of the world. Other businesses aren't driving billions of tourism dollars to the city's bank accounts. It wasn't just any small businesses that made Austin a beacon to the rest of the world. It was the musicians creating music in live music venues that sent that signal out. But that signal is dying. Our music venues are out of time. Please do the right thing. Create a dedicated live music venue preservation fund now to make sure those venues that have managed to hang on for this long still have a chance. Musicians need places to play when the lights come back on and to send that signal back out to the world. Austin's music community is watching, and we will remember when it's time to vote. Thank you.
I mean, that is a master class in music activism and citizen engagement. So first of all, thank you for that and for your passion and for letting us play that clip. And Aaron Myers in DC, I'm sure that's resonating with you as well. I mean, you've given that speech in different permutations. I know.
I think something you said was in your speech is very important. I know I wrote the Music Venue Relief Act here in Washington to ensure that we had a type of legislation that specifically addressed the issues that music venues and the music community has versus being sifted or sorted through a larger bill that was less specific and usually very vague. And vagueness really bothers and endangers the lifeblood of music venues and the music economy in every city. So we tried here in Washington to, or at least I tried when I was writing the legislation, to speak to venue owners, but to understand what place does the venue play in our life, and had to equate it to like a Ford plant for a community. So, a Ford plant employs different levels of people, and these venues employ different levels and skill sets and years of dedication to the music, and then different type of AV workers and different type of chefs and food, all these different things. So when you have 7 or 8 music venues shut down, those are the equivalent of 8 plants that are shut down. That means the ripple effect of everything that goes along with that. To what you all were talking about earlier, Fred, I wish we had something like that here in Washington. I was costing out album I'm preparing to record. I think it's about $12,000. But the importance of being able to create those relationships with fans is the very important thing. It's those venues that we've been able to meet the fans in, or the fans to be able to see us in regularly, that has helped us do this time with live streaming, for them to share our live streams with their friends and to continue to give through a Cash App or Patreon or what have you. And it's those fans, again, that have been able to help sign the petitions and to forward the petitions out and to write their city council people so legislation can be included, language can be included in legislation, and city council people can know the importance of these venues to not only the musicians, but the music community overall. So I think this is tied together beautifully. I wish we had something like that here in Washington, D.C. If I had more room on my plate, I would actually try to do that here in Washington myself. I don't, and I'm upset that I don't. But to a point that you made about the cities who usually like to tout the culture and tout the music, every year in Las Vegas, the offices of economic development for all cities show up, and they are touting their cities, and they're doing that to attract businesses and new economy to their different spaces. And the one thing, the biggest driving force for new economies to enter cities is culture. What do you have for the entire family? So what's going to influence an entire family? This worker to move with his wife and children, this wife to move with her partner or her husband and children, or what this person who may have to take care of his parents or an extended family, what will entertain all of them? What will nurture all of them? And we have found it as culture. And if you look in any city plan, wherever you see a club, you see a thriving community, and you find the diversity within the community as well, a neighborhood that is. And so the possibility that this pandemic will bring forth a series of music deserts is something that should frighten us all, because when you look at any type of desert, the desert is there because there's not water, there's not nutrients, there's not life coming into it. And to build and create that, to irrigate that, takes a while. Some cities are banking on that enough real estate will be open after this pandemic that it will be an encouragement for small businesses to come and start these music venues or this, that, and the other. That is the going thought. All right. And I want us to be very clear. This is it's not a thought that would be absent from a type of plan, but it's the wrong plan for how musicians can live, survive, and thrive. We must try to preserve those businesses that would not have closed. We have to understand that many businesses were going to close this year no matter what. So there were some businesses that were planning out, but there are 2 dates we should look at, and we've just passed one. Some businesses use their fiscal years with an F to be tied alongside the fiscal year of the city. Usually club groups, restaurant groups, larger venues do this because they are usually preferred partners with municipal governments. And because of this, it's easier to tie those their fiscal year with the city. So if, say, for instance, your fiscal year for the city is September, you should look for July and August to hear those announcements of these clubs that are going to close. Other clubs tie their fiscal years to the actual calendar year. So we're looking now in October and November, you're going to start getting some announcements of clubs that you thought were fine, you thought were okay. They've had to go to their accountants, they've had to go to their shareholders, especially the groups, and they've had to say, can we weather another year without assistance? Can we weather another year trying to play employees without making a profit? And the answer for many of them is no. And so if their answer is no, and we understand that many cities, unlike the federal government, must have a balanced budget. And so they cannot build a budget and spend off of a deficit. We understand that. We're asking cities to take the initiatives to even go forward and make public and private partnerships. There are several businesses who are doing quite well during this pandemic in these cities that can offer dollars to help create these funds. The fund in DC that we need for the Music Venue Relief Act is only about 4.5 million. Now, I looked at the Inc. 5000. There's over 30 businesses here that I've reached out to personally with revenue streams still over $10 million. Now, think if they were able to pool together, find a fund that about $4.5 million that can actually service and provide for these music venues as a type of relief and incentive for them not to close in the next fiscal year, but to weather the storm. And so if we can encourage municipalities to don't just look at the deficit spending that they cannot do, but to look at public and private partnerships, companies and businesses that are eager to partner with the city to help fund something like this, and the amount of lives and people it will save. I know for myself as a musician, it has been absolutely hell. You know, I was supposed to be on this call last week, and I was in the hospital. Mm-hmm. And as I was going to the hospital, I was just, you know, I'm in Washington alone. I always like to say my nearest relative is in New York and my nearest responsible relative is in Texas. And so if something were to happen to me, I was putting together my group of people who to call, but then it dawned on me that as a musician, certain things that I need, the community that I could readily turn to in this situation, is pretty much stalled. It's mute at this point. We have no way of letting these people know. And I think, Nakia, when you mentioned the tour, I did my first international tour last year. You know, making those relationships with those international audiences are just vital to what you need. And having those clubs open here, having those clubs open in the States, that is your calling card. So when you're trying to do your international tour and you're trying to create the buzz you need, you can tell your audience, this is my last show before I leave for Europe. This is my last show before I leave for South America. They're going to spread the news for you, and then that's going to excite the people across the pond. These are things that are important to us for a good reason, because we are the ambassadors for all the cities that we live in. We are the reason why these cities call themselves great, because of the culture, the music in which we produce, that we put out. And so I think we're going to have to band together, and it's going to be a fight, but we can't really give up with this.
Aaron, that's amazing. I'm going to bring in Celenza in just a second, but I want to just kind of, again, cut through some of the through lines in these conversations, because I think part of what is, you know, so powerful about this year and so powerful about what we, you know, where we're going as a community is, you know, first of all, as I said at the beginning of the program today, we can't keep ourselves boxed into a 2020 mindset. You know, Nakia, you've been doing activism before the pandemic. Aaron, you've been doing Capitol Hill Jazz and other platforms way before the pandemic. Ben, Colin, we've all been doing this before. And it's not simply like we've just got to get over the hump to get back to where things were. You know, we need to be, you know, really visualizing and really engaging in what are these, again, better, more resilient, more equitable structures across all the different sectors of our community. And I think there's power, again, if you know, and I tend to be optimistic, which I shouldn't be, but, you know, I tend to be optimistic about life. But I think, you know, if you look at what's happened with the independent venues and the sort of, you know, explosion of the National Independent Venue Alliance, that's a model. You know, where independent venues who are notoriously difficult to organize, notoriously difficult to want to get in the same room together, banded together and have had, you know, probably the most effective music-facing advocacy effort, you know, last 20 years by far. And I remain optimistic that that Save Our Stages will get funded at some point.
And Michael, with that, I want people to realize John Cornyn is the co-sponsor with that, which is the Republican from Texas. He's the whip for the Republicans. So, you know, but I want people to understand it's important to tackle your municipality for what you need in your city for your venues, because that will come and that might change mid-year for the federal funding, because they'll review their budget. You need to ensure some type of funding for your municipality and for your local musicians. We need to be starting. We cannot get the same results that we got in 2019 and 2021 after this. If we go back to the same way that we operated beforehand, we're fools, and we'll deserve it.
And I think, Aaron, I appreciate that, and I want to pull you in, but I just want to finish the thought in terms of, I think everybody is zoomed out. Like, we don't want any more Zoom meetings. We can't do it anymore. Like, we're just done. But Zoom has created the possibility for cross-community collaboration that was really unthinkable before we all kind of got onto these platforms. And we've seen it with our REVS initiative with the 11 pilot cities. Many of the pilot cities are participating in today's program. We're seeing it again with things like, Colin and Ben and getting ready to scale Black Fret and get into other cities. I mean, we're seeing the potential then with Aaron and Nakia and thinking about who are the versions of you, not that there is a you, but, where's the energy, where's the activism in, our sister cities that are thinking about the same things? And how do we think about, again, networks and collaboration moving forward? Because again, if it's all siloed and everybody's trying to reinvent the wheel, we're not going to get over the humps because it's just too freaking hard. But Anna, I'm sorry, do you have, I wanted to throw it to you to see if you have,
Okay.
There's been a lot in today's conversation. And
no, this is great. And I think the only thing I would want to add, because from listening, and it's been fabulous, so thank you so much, everyone, is, I think what Black Fret is doing in picking these cities and creating this network is wonderful. And I think what, Aaron and Nakia are doing as artists is amazing. I think in a lot of ways, yes, we have to kind of help our leaders of our municipalities and our congressmen and our senators understand, what's going on. That's a given. But I think another thing, we have to let audiences understand. Like, I'm noticing just by talking with a lot of people, they can't tell the difference between an independent venue and a venue that's part of a big chain that's nationwide. And so my fear is, if we really don't pay a lot of attention to how local venues really help preserve, or a better word, conserve, because it's something that's constantly changing. It's not like we want it frozen in time, but these are networks of a community, and in so many ways we've become, everything is sort of McDonaldized and it's all the same no matter wherever you go. When you look at a local venue and the culture, I think that's an important thing. And so I think we need to train audiences to really understand where what they're consuming is coming from.
Yeah, Anna, to your point, I think one of the disconnects is that to the average audience member, they would trade places with the person on the stage any minute of any day, thinking that their life is so much better and glamorous than their life, not understanding that probably everybody in the crowd has health insurance and the musician does not. So it's some of that understanding as well. And that, we've heard stuff like, oh, musicians will be fine. They always find some place to play. And I use the analogy like, well, we can get rid of airports. The airplanes will be fine. They'll find somewhere to land. I mean, if we're going to support the airline industry, then we need to think about supporting the music industry in the same way, because it's vital to our survival as human beings. And anyway, I'm just adding on to your point, but thank you. Thank you for raising it.
Yeah, so just in our last couple of minutes, I want to tie up a couple of loose ends and a couple of the questions that have been coming through, which are great questions. Just very specifically, Colin and Ben, just on sort of Black Fret and, kind of DEI and, kind of diversity issues and all that. Ben, I appreciated, your comments about the Seattle grantees. I would imagine that you would absolutely welcome if people in today's program have questions, would want to share strategies or just kind of exchange notes on your approach. You're open to that, I would assume?
By all means.
And truthfully, yes, please. And truthfully, it's not clear to everybody. We all can do better. Yeah. So,
this is one of the things that really has appealed to me about getting involved with Black Fret is it's a very young organization and we're iterating as we go. And, as I said before, we're not tied to specific genres, specific age groups. This is not the White Guy Guitar Preservation Society. This is about trying to create a magnifying glass to yeah, sorry, Michael. We're trying to create a magnifying glass to show off the great music that's being created in Seattle and Austin right now, and then hopefully other cities as we roll out. And so we're always looking for ways to purify, to expand what we're doing in a positive way.
And again, just thinking about the power of networks and just thinking about, again, people who are in today's program have experience with Threadheads, and Threadheads has been doing kind of not the same, but kind of crowd-funded sort of, amassing capital models out of New Orleans. clearly, all the work that Danny Grant and Julie Suter and others have done, Spokesbuzz and Band Swap. And, these are all really rich ideas. And as a community, we've got a lot of learnings that we can kind of lean upon about, like, where did we get stuck? What did we wish we'd been able to push through on, how we put pieces together. And so, again, it's just so awesome for you guys to come in front of the community. Nakia, what should we be looking for? So we put a bunch of your links in the chat.
Sure.
We all want to go experience your music. But what should we be looking for from you other than just supporting you on the activism front?
I'm recording a musical episode of a television show that I act and score in, or I score and act in, and that'll be coming out in 2021. And I have two very different songs. I'm mostly known for like soulful Southern soul and blues music, but I have two really straight up, one very top 40 type of pop song that are the songs that are coming out sometime soon. We're still working on that part. It's so weird to try to pick like a release date or anything right now, and some of it we have video shot for, some of it we don't. And but I will say for me that I have been doing this a while, as long as I've known Colin now, gosh, I guess almost 18 years, 17, 18 years. And I don't think there's ever been a better time for music venues and musicians in the industry to stand together, because we're kind of forced on strike. We don't have a choice in the matter right now. And when the lights come back on, we have something that they need and that they absolutely crave. And yes, somebody else can come and put another club there, and maybe another musician will move, but it won't be the same. And we have the power of no, and we can stand together and really make a difference and say, you know what, we're not going to do things the way that we used to. And we need organizations like Black Fret, who are really making a difference in the lives of musicians to help do that. And again, I think, to me, this idea of spreading out, somebody put in here in the questions, I think, is there a Black Fret in New Orleans, or what's going on in New Orleans? And before this call, I had told Colin, that we have musicians reaching out to us to start like an advocacy organization in New Orleans already. And they were actually on our weekly musicians advisory panel call this morning, taking notes. And that, to me, is so refreshing to see that in all of our free time, that we're not just griping on Facebook, that we're actually out here doing the work. And I'm really encouraged by that.
Nikki, that's so well said. And Aaron, as a DC native, and we were so happy to have you on the program earlier this year, and we don't need to rehash what an unbelievable bummer is 2020. How awful this year is in terms of just everything you had set up for this year. But we are just so appreciative of the work that you and many colleagues, it's not the Aaron Meyer show. I mean, a lot of people put in a lot of work to support the DC music scene and try to, help it thrive. And, selfishly, like, I can't wait to see you on a Friday night. And for those of you in the program who have not had a chance to see Aaron perform, I mean, this person is magic. So we all can't wait to get back to some sense of normalcy and get our, get our venues back up, get our musicians up performing, figure out where we can all be contributing to kind of, not only just, kind of rebuild what we had, but build better. Anna, were you going to?
I have one last shout out, only because, Aaron, could you please in the chat or tell us the title of your recently published book? Because I think you definitely have been using your COVID time well.
Yes, and like I said, someone with antibodies, right? I was able to write a book called White People Talking to White People: How to Broach the Topic of Race with Your White Friends. And it's the idea of being able to have intentional conversations between white people regarding race, with accurate facts, definitions, a step-by-step guide. It's only about 20 or 30 pages long, so it's not a long book for you to have. It's really a guide that you can keep with you. You can get it on Amazon, White People Talking to White People. And the important thing about this is that you don't have this conversation after your Uncle Joe has upset you at Thanksgiving. This is not when that conversation happens. This conversation happens first, starting from where you live, for meeting your husband, your wife, your roommate, your siblings, the people who know you well, and you schedule time to have these conversations to see how can you bring someone else in with you to end systemic racism in your network, in your home, in your family. And I think that you may assume you are aware of how your sister, your sibling, your wife, your husband, how they came to form their thoughts about race. But I guarantee you've never had a intentional conversation to discover that. And what we are finding out is that people who've known each other for 50 years are learning much more about each other through these conversations, one conversation at a time. So before you can go out and march and save the world, I need my white people to get together so that y'all can talk to each other. So these conversations could save my life, because you have the privilege as white people to avoid that racist cousin or to only speak to that racist family member every once in a while. But when I meet them, I meet the worst of them. And that interaction sometimes costs me my life. And I wish I had that black fret here in Washington, because that would help me a great deal at this time. So you all keep it going. I'll see who I can talk to see if they can join you here.
Thank you, Aaron.
And thank you, Anna and Michael, for what you all do here in Washington, D.C. as well. We're very appreciative of that.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. So Alex Tolden
bringing us all together. Yeah.
Has been putting all these links into the chat. So there's links to contact information and follow-up, and Aaron's book, and Bandcamp, and all sorts of great stuff. And of course, links to catch up with Colin and Ben, and more information about Black Fret. As always, thank you to our guests. Thank you to Anna. Thank you to our other Music Policy Forum board members, and of course, Alex producing the program for us. We, as always, appreciate you all spending time with us. Happy New Year to those of you who celebrate. If you have questions, comments, concerns, feedback, positive enforcement, all that good stuff, you can always email us at musicpolicyforum@gmail.com. We have a really exciting couple of weeks of programs coming up over the next month or so, and we can't wait for you all to join us. So thanks again. Have a great rest of your Friday, and we will see you soon. Bye.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.